Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Let's dive straight back in. But the rise of Blackhat, that is just gone out of control this year. I mean, some of the stuff I'm seeing is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, even as as recent as in the last 10 days or so, all these white masks kind of showing up on listing. Yep. And I think 2019 has to be the year Amazon tries to actually do something about this or control them in a bigger way. And also interesting that recently there was an article that they came out and made some changes and fired some people in India, where I kind of think a lot of this is coming out of China, not necessarily India, but it should be interesting what Amazon does with the one vendor system that's coming out. I think it's going to come out probably in the first 6 months or so of 2019, which will sort of combine both Seller Central and Vendor Central, and see what kind of changes Amazon makes to try to.
They've got to get control over the abuse on the Vendor Central accounts.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
And this is what I don't think people always understand, is that a lot of this abuse, changing the images, the bullet points on the listing, changing the brand name, getting, inside phone calls to get inventory stranded, moving you to these crazy categories that no one can reach. A combination of those things has just got out of control. But I think one of the biggest things and the most easy way for people to manipulate is people buying these burner accounts, aren't they? And they're manipulating listings that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a big seller right now, if you're a big seller and you don't have Vendor Central, whether you're selling into Vendor Central or you have a throwaway product, I'm not talking about Vendor Express, but Vendor Central, and you're at risk. You're exposed right now, because that's what a lot of these Blackhat guys are using. There's a loophole in there that Amazon needs to close. And maybe the one account like Liran's talking about will fix that. And they're just waiting to, just writing it out because it's a complicated system on the backside. It's not just to push a button, but maybe that's going to help solve some of these problems, but that's what they're using to attack. And a lot of people don't realize that, because Vendor Central basically gives you your God, your Amazon. So they can go in there and change stuff, and then you're contacting seller support, and they're saying, well, it's, someone at Amazon changed, I can't change it, or it's locked, or it's in a higher permission, or whatever. It's a major problem. And like you just said, the buyer account, there's guys that have 20,000 buyer accounts, burner accounts. They have Seller Central burner accounts. There's processes that they set them up in China really, really fast.
Click bombs.
And it's crazy. I mean, you can buy a Vendor Central account for $15,000 or $20,000 from one of these guys. They have, it's crazy what's going on. And like you said, with the data leaks, I agree with Liran. I think most of it's coming more out of China than India. I think the India was more of the wish list gaming systems and that type of stuff, add to carts and wish list. But I think the real serious problem is in China.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Amazon's had to throw someone under the bus, every time a news article comes out, someone gets burnt, right? Someone's got to pay. There's some people in terms of that fraud in Germany as well. But it's going on everywhere. And we know that Amazon are courting, unofficially, they're courting China because it's a massive market for them, right? At the end of the day, it makes them a lot of money. And at some point, maybe they are turning a bit of a blind eye to this. Like, they have to allow some of it to go on because maybe they've courted it. Maybe they've got account managers set up in there and they've wined and dined people, and then
and in our culture, everybody's always, is this insert against TOS? Am I again? They want to play by the rules. In the Chinese culture, it's like, no, you do whatever you have to do to get ahead at all costs, and that's normal. It's accepted. It's not considered bad. Versus we look at it and we're like, oh my God, you're just an evil person. And so they're coming in, and most of the stuff is in the BSR is under 1,000. So if you're, that's why I always tell people, play in the middle of the pack. Amazon has grown so much in the last 3 or 4 years that what used to be a 1,000 BSR might be a 3,000 or 4,000 BSR now, but it's selling just as much as the 1,000 was a few years ago. So play in the middle of the pack, and you have a lot less problems instead of trying to have these home run products and go outside of the under $20. They're all on the cheap, quick, easy, because what they're doing with all these burner accounts, and they'll have 10 different listings that they'll do all kinds of crazy stuff with. They don't care, so they're not going to invest in expensive products because a lot of times they just abandon the product. So there's lots of other ways to compete and avoid these people.
Yeah, I mean, there's manufacturing locals, another thing that you can look at doing. But
exactly.
when you you know, if you're selling products that is typically built at scale in a Chinese factory, realistically, you're going to have a struggle to compete. I mean, we can talk about branding and stuff all day long, but if you go into categories and sell products that are not very easily manufactured in the in China, for instance, then you have less issues to face on that side of things.
Or sourced outside of China, you know, for the Blackhat reasons, plus for, you know, the tariffs and other stuff that's happening. So, that's where a lot of people are starting to look outside of China, into Vietnam, Indonesia, to Mexico, to Europe, like you said, or or made in the USA if you're selling in the US. There's
I mean,
a lot
you've
of
got products, Kevin, didn't you? You do some US based stuff as well.
Yeah, I have US based stuff. Yeah, and it's not as easy. So the thing about China is all the courses teach China. China is the world's factory, so all the wheels are greased and all the things are in place. You know, to take everything from the factory to port, it's a well-oiled machine. Versus if you go to Guatemala and you're trying to buy some wood carvings or wood something from a village, you know, it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass. And so that's why a lot of people don't do it. But there's tremendous opportunity, you know, carpets from Turkey or whatever, you know, you can think outside of China. And
you know, the more complex, the harder it is to source something. And if you can do it, the better off you are, right? The more complex the product, if you can get good quality out of it, the better off you are. And, you know, like you said, a lot of people are making the mistake of going for these, you know, what I would say off the shelf private label under $20, just like taking something, sticking a logo on it. And that's part of what I think is 2019. I think branding, you know, differentiation, all these things are just becoming a lot more important because, you know, it's just, you know, how many hundreds of thousands of sellers are joining the platform every year, and, you know, people, and what percentage of that are people that are starting with like, you know, $5,000 or less, and you don't want to go in and, you know, compete necessarily with that same, you know, audience of new people who are coming in. So I think definitely differentiation, you know, hiring designers, right, to create something different, and you don't need to be the, you know, most creative person. Hire somebody and they can make some changes to your products and make it better, and you know, and then you can compete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the future, you know, talking about I think Amazon is better than ever. People always say, "Is it saturated? Is it game over?" And I say, no, it's getting better, and it's getting better every day. Yeah, there's problems with the Blackhat, there's problems with stuff, but there's never been a marketplace or a place where you can take $5,000 or $10,000 when you start and turn it into what you can turn it into, and do it in your underwear the entire time. So but you have to treat it like a real business. And like what Liran just said, he's done some of this. You know, he's got a patent on some of his products. I think, and I've invented some of my own products. It's not just find a factory in China and stick my label on it, like you said. That's the problem with a lot of people. They're looking for the easy way out. But if you use Amazon as a research platform, look at the reviews, look at what's selling, and then come up with your own angle. Like I have a dog bowl that I designed that's completely, you know, I had the molds made and everything. That is part of the future, and that goes along with what he said with branding. And so I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that. There's more risk. It takes more money. It takes a little bit longer time, but the rewards can be very, very good. And so that's one area is in patents and unique design that I think is going to be, you're going to see more of, and then also licensing. I think there's major opportunities on the licensing side as well. And then on the bigger higher end products, and people not focusing on stuff that sells 20 a day, but let's put together a portfolio of 20 products that each sell 5 a day.
And especially on the licensing side, I think more and more of the licensors are willing to now sort of accept that you're Amazon only. And then maybe in year 2 or 3 of the deal, you know, as you grow, you can, you know, they might want you to get into retail. But I think today, more than, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, a licensor probably didn't want to talk to you if you weren't in retail, right? But now they can take a look at your product. They can see the reviews. They can see that you're in the niche. If you're already doing well in the niche, then you can get a license, and they know that based on your sales on Amazon, you'll be able to get into retail. You know, in a couple of years. You know, I was in a meeting this week in Manhattan with like a PR agency, and it was like a potential consulting client. And one of the things the guy told me is, you know, whenever he's sitting in a room with a buyer from like any retail, Target, Walmart, first thing they do is when they're sitting with a potential product there is look the product up on Amazon and see how it's doing, you know, and that's becoming the benchmark for everything in terms of, getting licensing, getting into retail, all these things. And if you're branding and you're creating something different, you're not competing just on price and reviews. If your plan is putting out the same products and competing on price and reviews, you're screwed, right? Because you're going down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Kevin, and go back to pick apart that model you just mentioned, selling less units a day, but going sideways with your product line and selling 5 or 10 a day. Where would you say the sweet spot for that is in terms of price point?
I still think that, it can be all over the place, but I don't sell anything under $20.
Yeah.
So I think the best, everybody always think everybody wants the cheapest product on Amazon, and Amazon's the lowest, is all about low price, and there's nothing further from the truth. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of people that want the lower price, they want the best deal, but there are people on Amazon that are willing, and there's enough of them. There's not as many as the low price shoppers, but there's a lot of people that will pay a premium for a good quality product that looks cool, that's different, and a lot of people they ignore that.
And convenience. They pay for convenience.
And the convenience. And so, I don't know if there's a sweet spot in a number. It could be a $30 product. It could be, I have stuff from $30 to $90 that fits in that realm. So I don't know if there's a sweet spot. I don't really pay attention to price when I'm trying to sell something. I pay attention to how much ROI and profit and can I compete. And I don't care if that's a $25 item or a $600 item.
Yeah. And do you find that for your catalog of relationship with products, you get like a halo effect anyway? So you're getting cross buys?
You get some. It's not as much as what some of the, a couple of years ago, there's some of the gurus were saying, you build a brand, they're going to buy this product and buy that and that. There is some of that, but I don't think it's as strong as what people think, because you're selling on Amazon and they're not buying your brand initially. They're buying because they found it on Amazon. Now, there is something to it. If you started them off on your Shopify site and you wooed them through Facebook and that way, and you're building a brand, they're identifying with you, they're following your story and so on. That's different. You can use your Amazon data and work towards creating that, and you should be doing that at some point. But in the beginning, I don't know that there's as big of a halo effect as what most people see. Maybe later on, I don't know if you see that.
I agree with that. I think the longer you're on the platform with your brand, the more you have, better reviews and you're coming out with new products, you will see, I see this in my PPC traffic. I see people searching for my brand name, right? So they can potentially discover more of my products. If you're utilizing enhanced content and, you can show now the comparison chart with your other products there where people can click and go to your storefront. So there are things you can do to get some incremental sales. But if I have a big brand and I'm selling grills, I don't think that I can launch a barbecue glove and be sustained just based off the audience that's already in my storefront and seeing my other products, right? It's too competitive a product to bring to Amazon, as opposed to if I had that product, if I had grills on my website and then I also had some barbecue gloves and some, sort of Amazon saturated products, you could probably get more sales by people discovering it there in that one, platform where it's easy to see everything. Like, Kevin said, Amazon is a marketplace and they're searching for something. So, I think over time you can get more of those incremental sales the more you're working on building your brand and your product line. But it's not something that's going to happen off the bat, or that even with a brand that's a few years old, that I can still rely on to be the source of sales the only source of sales for a product.
Yeah, makes sense. So predictions for next year. What is there anything like I always get to this part of the year and I kind of start thinking about, well, a bit earlier than this, but start thinking about what's going on next year, but also the changes that are ahead and what do we need to stay ahead of? I
think you're going to see the advertising cost. It's going to be Amazon's going to become more of a pay to play platform. Yeah. You see Amazon with even their private label brands. A lot of people, they know Amazon basics, but most people don't realize Amazon has about 130 or so, and it's growing every week, private label brands in all kinds of spaces on Amazon, and they're giving that stuff prominent placement, as they should. And so for us, smaller people, to try to weasel in there is going to become more and more expensive. And as some of the bigger brands come on, some of the bigger Madison Avenue, I think you're going to see advertising costs continue to go up. And I think you're going to see ranking onto page one is going to become, especially for some of the more popular keywords, become more and more difficult as Amazon takes more of that space, and it becomes more of a pay-for-play system. I think that's one of the big changes you're going to see in the coming year. And I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I dread coming, because most of these systems all follow the same as Google at some point, because it's the most sophisticated system. I'd say Facebook is much closer now in terms of what it's caught up, and all the changes that have happened with sponsored ad this year alone, it's probably had more advancements on sponsored ad side or on the advertising platform than it has in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
My concern, though, is if they change the algorithm so there's no correlation between PPC sales and getting rank juice from that. Because you had that on Google already.
But
it's an independent process. You pay for advertising, but there's no relationship for organic ranking.
The downside of that, though, is for Amazon has an incentive to keep that, right? Yeah. Because Amazon's incentive is that you'll want to keep advertising to keep your organic ranking. Where
exactly.
Google doesn't necessarily maybe care about that, because with Google, it's like the integrity of the organic.
I think it was down to antitrust, wasn't it? I think that was introduced. I may be wrong. I need to look it up. But I think that was introduced after antitrust issues. So there was no correlation.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're right about that. And, I think with Google, they wanted to create this wall, right, between organic and PPC.
Advertisers.
Yeah. So that, advertising, so you can't buy organic rankings where, I guess with Amazon, they're very much incentivized to, whereas with Google, you would only advertise like if it's profitable. On Amazon, people are willing to advertise to break even or lose money because of the organic effect. And so Amazon is kind of raking it in because of that.
Yeah.
So I would say, I would think they wouldn't make a change unless they were forced to, like you said, it's some kind of antitrust. I think for 2019, you're also going to you'll see this shift where, more big brands are getting in, and I think more of the little guys are going to get squeezed out. I mean, I've seen even in the last 6 months, just more and more posts on Facebook, people who are like, hey, I'm selling my FBA, my Amazon Seller Central account. I have like 1,000 units of this product, and
because they're too busy at this time to manage it, so they're
too busy.
Too busy, or something else.
Something else has come up. I've got an investment elsewhere, so I'd like to give someone this opportunity.
Yes, and one of the things these posts never mention is profit, because usually there is none, right? But they want to get rid of their units, and they're willing to sell it at a loss or whatever. But I'm seeing more and more and more of that in the Facebook groups, which means people who are thinking like, this is easy, I can get into this with a few $1,000s and not a lot of creativity or work. That's, it's much harder today than it was, in 2014. So I think you're going to continue to see that. And, like, Kevin said, bigger brands are coming in with, as bigger brands are also going to be embracing more of, I think, the 3P side as opposed to the 1P side. A lot of them are already like in hybrid models, because Amazon will do what's called, they'll crap a product out. They'll say, can't realize a profit anymore. They won't reorder it. Or Amazon, sells out and they don't reorder, and now they don't have an FBA on the back end of it to continue the listing. So you see more and more big brands going to the 3P side. And that means they're going to be spending a lot more, I think, on advertising within Amazon, which means, cost for clicks, like
and they're used to doing TV budgets, right? So they don't give a shit about profitability. It's about branding.
It's branding, exactly.
In the beginning, the big brands were just, they would hire some flunky, some intern or something. Hey, put our catalog up, or put it through the API. And they just throw their catalog up on Amazon, and, the listings were crap for the most part. And you're seeing now they're waking up. They're like, holy cow, this actually can be a significant portion of our business. Let's get this thing right. And so they're hiring people or taking some of these courses, and learning the systems that we all know. They're never going to quite be able to compete on the same level, because most of the guys like Liran and myself, we're more guerrilla type of marketers, and we can duck and dash and do stuff and pivot really fast. But they're starting to use some of the same techniques and some of the same things, and that increases the competition level as well for us.
Yep. Like, Kevin says, the advantage that we have is, like, we want to make a change to our listing. We don't need to put it through our legal department, our board, or whatever, right? Like, there are some companies that literally every tiny change they want to make on a listing needs to be approved up, by legal or whatever, several channels. And that's, the ability to be small, it's like the big ship and the little ship, right? Little ship can turn around very quickly and adapt. And, you're one sort of, we're talking about a lot of sort of changes that are coming that might make it tougher to do business. But the one advantage that we all have is that we can move really quickly on the platform. And that's our unique advantage, and know it much better than the big, than the big brands. And utilize,
and the one account. Sorry, and the one account like you're talking about that's coming, it's going to be interesting to see. I think we might lose some of our control. I think there may be, as far as the future, I think it may be, in light of all the Blackhat stuff, where everything's going to have to get approved, by everybody. Right now, I go change my pictures. Typically in 15 minutes, they're done. I go change my title, it's done. I think with this one, we'll have to see, but my gut feeling is that we're going to lose some of that ability, and everything is going to have to go through some sort of approval process. Some of it may be automated, but there'll be more sophisticated systems to kind of like what Facebook does. When you run an ad, it checks to see the text and the picture, and it checks, some of that kind of automated stuff. But I think that's coming too, where we may actually lose some of that. Amazon's going to take some of that back. And there's good pros and cons to that. That could cut down on some of the problems with the counterfeit type of stuff, but on the same side, that's what makes us have a competitive advantage too.
Yeah, makes sense. What about not people, but what about other players in the field? Is someone going to eke up some market share and present any small minor challenge to Amazon?
No.
Not in 2019,
No. The one that could do that is Instagram or Facebook, if they can figure out some sort of way to integrate e-commerce. But they still don't have that. Amazon major advantage is the FBA program. The fulfillment, people trust it. The 2-day, 1 day, 1 hour shipping. That's almost impossible for someone to compete with.
I think Jeff Bezos even recently, talked about in a like all hands meeting or something to Amazon that eventually Amazon will fail, right? And if you look back, 10 years ago, you would never think Walmart would be replaced by anybody, right? And then Amazon comes along, so there might be some new technology that's going to come out, but maybe that's 10, 20, 30 years away, right? Of something that might replace that experience. But I don't think for 2019, I think you're going to continue to see Amazon, keep a 50% plus, market share of e-commerce, at least in the U.S. markets, and probably only grow in, European markets. I met somebody this week. It was the company that I met with was a toy company from Italy, and they're like, in Italy, nobody shops on Amazon. They're like, it's not even, kind of a thing. So they're coming here to launch their product line, in the U.S. market, because, there it's just so small. So those markets are going to continue to just grow for Amazon, I think.
Yeah.
Taxes are going to be another major issue for those selling in the U.S. next year too. The sales tax issue is going to, people are going to have to start getting serious about that, because I think you're going to start seeing a lot more enforcement on that. And I think eventually Amazon's going to have to take this over. Instead of requiring the sellers to register in 45 states and do all this, I think eventually at some point, I don't know if it'll be 2019, but at some point Amazon's going to say, okay, we'll start collecting and paying. It's the right thing to do. It's the easy thing to do, but for whatever reason, they're fighting that right now.
Yeah, there's an announcement coming soon. That we had an event the other day. We had Steve Simonson over. You guys know him. Over here in the UK, and at the dinner he was speaking to the audience of Amazon sellers. He said there's an announcement coming soon, but he wouldn't divulge what it is. And he has a lot of relationships inside of Amazon. He visits there on a regular basis. I think he's based up in Seattle, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
So we could be seeing something quite interesting happening.
I think you would. There was a recent article, about the new California like tax, administrator, sales tax administrator, and how she is a strong believer that Amazon should be collecting the taxes and that the burden shouldn't be put on small business. And, I think once California drops, and Amazon starts to collect the rest of this, it's going to be like a domino effect of the rest of the states. We've seen 6 states, I think, this year And I think you'll see, a bunch more, maybe everywhere, by the end of next year.
Yeah, makes
It'd
sense.
be a nice thing for sellers.
Definitely. Cool. Thanks, guys. That's a pretty epic one. What is the best way that people can reach you, Kevin?
Best way is amzmarketer.com on Facebook, or AMZ Marketer on Facebook, or freedomticket.com or illuminatimastermind.com.
Cool. Liran?
You can find me on Facebook, Liran Hirshkorn, or Amazing Freedom Facebook group, or my email, liran@amazingfreedom.com.
Sounds good. Guys, thanks for joining us. Liran, Kevin, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'll be back in a few days, but don't forget to check the show notes at sellersessions.com. Take care. See you soon.